What's up guys, my name is Dean, aka the Blue Crusader, and welcome back to the channel. Everyone has those games from their childhood that are just ingrained in their mind forever, but sometimes not everyone remembers them or looks as fondly on them as we do. In today's top 10 video, we'll be taking a look into the top 10 best underrated games of all time. Without further ado, let's get into the video. Number 10. Rayman 2 The Great Escape. A platform game developed for the N64, PS1 and countless other ports to other consoles, Rayman 2 The Great Escape is a platform game released initially on the 29th of October 1999 by Ubisoft. The level design has lots of variety, including vehicle sequences, puzzles and different types of levels. The game still retains quality despite its variation too, and it takes place in a world called a Glade of Dreams, in which there's a robo-pirates invasion which Rayman and all his allies must defend against. It really has fun mechanics through jumping, gliding, swinging and swerving and much more, making Rayman a really fun character to tackle puzzles with. Rayman 2 is definitely one of the best 3D platformer games out there, and it's definitely worth playing. If you own a copy of the original disc, I'd recommend try it out on a PC emulator, but there's also a real full PC port which you can get through Uplay. Number 9. Zoo Tycoon DS. Released for Nintendo DS in 2005 on October the 11th, Zoo Tycoon DS is a game ingrained in my memory for multiple reasons. There was also a sequel in 2008 that I didn't play, but if you're a fan of simulation games and tycoon style business titles along with favouring the interactivity of the Nintendo DS, Zoo Tycoon would have been a perfect match for you. At the end of the school season, we'd have a games day where we could bring in consoles and games or bring them on the bus journey on school trips, and Zoo Tycoon was one of my favourite games. This game was severely underappreciated and got lower reviews, but in my opinion, it's an injustice. The game has two different modes, a scenario mode where you get a pre-designed zoo to work with and you must complete objectives, or a freeform mode where you build from the ground up, under your own charge and through your own means. The game has preloaded tutorials to learn how to do everything, and you can breed pandas in captivity, create polar bear enclosures and use your hard-earned dollars to construct the best zoo there is from the ground up, with exhibits to house up to 50 different animals in the game by starting fence by fence and picking through the terrain sets and foliage, rocks and objects and more to place within your enclosures. Zoo Tycoon DS was really fun to kill time, and I think personally it was severely underappreciated. Number 8. Startopia. A game by Eidos and Muckyfoot Productions and released in 2001 for the PC, Startopia is a real classic title. The purpose of this game is to be an administrator of the space stations of the alien races and make them thrive by building different buildings and hubs for different purposes. The game has amazing original music which is super addictive and memorable, and super simple but fun game mechanics. As the player, you revitalize and reconstruct abandoned or derelict space stations and their hangars, and there's an easy tutorial to get you started. You construct facilities in order to profit from, and you can make some of the AI alien characters operate them by promoting and firing them when necessary. There's a campaign to the game with objective driven missions which add direction and reason to the game. You can build a range of buildings which include hotels, shops, bars, prisons, laboratories, factories and more. The game has multiplayer which can still be accessed and played nowadays via third-party tunneling software such as Game Ranger. Those who aren't interested in single-player campaigns can play the sandbox mode, which allows for a lot of tweaking and changing of options and settings in the game, and it's less linear than playing the campaign mode. Number 7. Sims 2 DS. Released in 2005 by EA for Nintendo DS, Sims 2 throws players back into Strange Town. This is the same location as most of the original console titles. After crashing your car, the player arrives in the town and they go to the local hotel, where the aim of the game is to consistently improve the hotel through the addition of new rooms which you can furnish and expand and add new extensions to and attend to the hotel guests. The majority of the time you spend as the player is to make the guests feel happy. Your player can still shower and eat and do things to increase your own sanity, but it can be slightly linear and restrictive at points, although it doesn't take away from the nostalgia of the title. You're basically looking after yourself whilst micromanaging the others. The coolest part of this title for me was going out into the desert where the player could find a crashed UFO and aliens to interact with. It also had pretty cool music to the game as well. Number 6, Spider-Man 2. Arguably one of the best games for PS2, Spider-Man 2 was a game released in 2004 which was loosely based on the movie of the same name by director Sam Raimi. The game had the player running into popular villains from the comics such as Mysterio, Rhino, Shocker, Vulture and more, but all of these villains were not actually from the film the game was based on. Perhaps the most awesome thing about this game is the sheer size of the in-game city, which is pretty impressive for an older title for the PS2, although games of similar nature such as San Andreas also had huge scale cities. It allowed the player to swing around the seemingly endless city for hours without getting bored, and its free roam style made the game super interesting and less linear than a lot of titles of the similar nature. Many people were critical on the in-game moves and directives, but just swinging across the game and flipping around just made it super fun for me personally. Number 5, Jet Set Radio. Originally from the Sega Dream Cast in 2000, Jet Set Radio is a memorable title and was originally called Jet Grind Radio. It has super catchy tunes, great characters and a really amazing unique art style. As the player, you're part of a small youth gang called the GGs, who use roller skates in Tokyo City to compete in leaving their mark through the use of graffiti. Although you can do multiple tricks and grinds, the actual purpose of the game is to do as many objectives and sprays whilst evading the law. The game's cel-shaded look is really beautiful in its own way and is super straightforward to play with tutorials on everything in the game. The origin of the game's name is the radio station of the same name in the in-game narrative. You can even customize your own custom graffiti sprays in the graffiti editor, which makes for great customization when playing. Number 4, Viva Pinata. One of the best Xbox 360 games in my eyes. Although I didn't play it too much, I still had a little bit of time on this game. Viva Pinata was released in 2006 as a life simulation game by Rare, and it focuses on developing and caring for a garden space in Pinata Island, basically where the player can breed pinatas and defend their land. As the player, you are the invisible godlike character who is the gardener of the world. The game's a really colourful, lively style and it appeals to both younger players and old. You start by farming on an old abandoned and neglected piece of farmland and progress through the game by making it flourish. There's 70 or more species of the pinata animals in game and they can be attracted to the garden to mate, multiply and interact with the garden. You use a multitude of different seeds for plants, tools to cultivate them and abilities throughout the game to make the garden flower, and it takes a place on this list for how unique this title actually is in comparison to other games. Number 3, Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg. An original game for the Nintendo GameCube back in 2003 by the Sonic team, Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg is a breath of fresh air in terms of originality and all-round fun. It's a 3D platformer with a lot of style and focuses on the character Billy, who wears a chicken suit to battle off the evil crows in the area by rolling giant eggs to defeat enemies and solve the in-game puzzles through special abilities. The larger the egg the player uses, the more damage they do to the in-game enemies, and each egg has a different colour, design and ability. The in-game puzzles such as lava flows and roller coasters can be quite challenging but refreshing, and there's boss battles at the end of each level. The game has really nice graphics also, which is mirroring the later 3D Sonic titles, obviously due to the developer being Team Sonic. Number 2, Super Monkey Ball. A 2001 title for the Nintendo GameCube, Super Monkey Ball is a memorable title for many, but also an underrated one in my personal opinion. It's a classic platformer party game in which its fun level is sometimes dependent on the more players that play the game. The game is a giant obstacle course with multiple different arcade style minigames with different puzzles and styles, and it's one of the most fun games with multiple players. It's really loads of fun if you play with family. There are practice modes for each level to warm up, and each level is basically a time trial where players can gather and compare their scores to compete. You play as a monkey in a bubble who can roll, catapult and slide across ramps and platforms in the in-game surfaces whilst collecting bananas and reaching the finish line to maximise your score. Although the game's graphics may not look as modern nowadays, it still holds up and the mechanics make it still a super fun and addicting game. Number 1, Spongebob Squarepants Battle for Bikini Bottom. Now this game isn't severely underrated, but I still think it needs to be appreciated more. Battle of Bikini Bottom is a 2003 3D platformer by THQ for the Xbox and PlayStation 2 as well as other later consoles. Perhaps you've actually heard about it because it's been redeveloped and remastered for a new release for PC and other consoles called Spongebob Squarepants Battle of Bikini Bottom Rehydrated. In the game you can play as SpongeBob, Patrick and Sandy Cheeks to traverse through the various 10 levels and challenges through Bikini Bottom. You can use different moves such as your tongue, lasso and underwear bungee jumping to get around the platforms. The game has bright, memorable graphics and it basically is a childhood dream come true for players to play as their favourite characters in the SpongeBob world. You collect shiny items and defeat Plankton's evil robots while trying to avoid tartar sauce and hurling objects that can hurt SpongeBob. You can visit some of the most popular locations from the cartoon, such as downtown Bikini Bottom, Jellyfish Fields, and even Rock Bottom. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like. If you disagree with the opinions in this video and you think that I missed an even better game that's underrated than the ones I listed, definitely let me know in the comment section below. If you want to see more top 10 videos like this, daily gaming videos, and more, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out by clicking the notification bell. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.